everyone, and welcome back to the Mana Confluence, a juncture for all things magic. And today, we are talking about a ridiculous partner commander tandem using a new card, Eligeth, Crossroads, Augur. This is the partner commander with Kydele, chosen of Kruphix. This card turns even the most ordinary cards into Ancestral Recall, which is incredibly potent in our command zone. So you guessed it, this is a deck that is all about turning cards that we would scry into cards that we would draw, and then tapping Kydele to add a bunch of mana to our mana pool. So let's not mess around, let's get into our plethora of scry effects. Let's start with the creatures, with Artificer's Assistant, because it has a chance to become a 1-mana copy of Jorah Weatherlight Captain. With 2 commanders in the command zone, this can be a card draw engine, similarly to a card like Augury Owl. And by just showing the first 2 cards so far, you can tell why this can be such a powerful deck. Cards should be flying into our hand, especially when cards like Cryptid Annelid can enter and draw 6. So the game plan is to draw cards, make mana, and then draw more cards in order to win the game. Fairy Seer replaces itself plus more, adding the ability to draw even more cards. Geist of the Archives is not going to only give us a blocker, but a card every turn. Omen Speaker is a fair card that you shouldn't feel bad about playing, but Overwhelmed Apprentice is preferable. I feel like the amount of card draw is a bit numbing at this point, but Prognostic Sphinx draws 3 on attack, which is not something to scoff at. Sage's Row Denizen is just a whole bunch more card draw, but Sphinx of Foresight has a lot of potential as well. It can set us up so much in the early game and draw a lot in the late game, similarly to Thassa, God of the Sea. But the scry doesn't end there, it continues with enchantments like Aqueous Form. The form poses quite the offensive threat, while continuing on our seemingly impossible to stop card draw train. Eyes Everywhere is a card draw source similar to Thassa, which is the primary reason it's in this deck, but it adds a bit of an ability to finish the game, especially if we give it to an opponent that doesn't have blue. And let me add that when we draw cards, we then, with Kydele, get more of an ability to replay our commanders if they die. Omen of the Sea is one such of those card draw pieces because it can draw us a total of 5 cards for 5 mana, which seems very fair, and Retreat to Coralheim is a very versatile card that can also draw a lot of cards. Guardian Project seems really bad when compared to this card, Season of Growth, in this deck, because every time any creature enters, we're going to get to draw a card instead of scrying. Guess what, people? Planeswalkers can scry and hopefully not die. Jace Mirror Mage turns a +2 into a draw 2. That's the same effect as a different Planeswalker's plus will have, this time Jace Unraveler of Secrets. And the party never ends in card draw land with Nissa, Steward of Elements. I can say it time and time again, but this is an incredibly powerful commander, which is evident by our next category of scry effects, instants and sorceries. Inscription of Insight will draw cards and much more. Then we have Ancestral Recall, Ancestral Recall, Ancestral Recall, and, of course, Ancestral Recall. These are all great options for the deck, but 2-mana Ancestral Recall is also really good. But the insane thing in this deck that I cannot wrap my head around is the depth of really cheap cards that make this deck completely able to draw out. Deliberate is a solid option, and Dissolve is a counterspell with a great upside. Faded Infatuation has a similar upside of drawing cards on top of an already decent card, and Opt just gets better and better as time goes on, it seems. Artifacts want to get in on the action, and so do lands. Lifecaster's Bestiary is a card draw machine in this 2-color deck. Mazemind Tomb, besides being a great funnel for Kydele mana, has a lot of potential with life gain and drawing us cards for free with that scry ability. Seer's Lantern has the potential to not only draw cards, but also to tap for mana. Treasure Map is already known as quite a good card, so let's try to put it in a deck like this, which makes it even better. Witching Well, 'tis also a card with potential. Okay, so I've spent a while talking about cards that scry, and I think I've gotten across the message that, hey, this deck has potential. This is the last batch, I promise. Castle Vantress draws cards. Isolated Watchtower catches up in the ramp department and draws cards at the same time. Path of Ancestry is going to be a card draw engine with our commanders. And Soldevi Excavations is a bit expensive, but it can scry us a lot, thus drawing cards. For the last card of right now, we have Temple of Mystery. Okay, I lied, Zelfrin Void. Okay, I'm done now. So there, done. That's our card draw effects, and there's a lot of them. So the question now is, how can we take advantage of these effects and utilize them to win the game? If we're going to draw cards to win the game, which I do think we can given the number of times I've said draw a card in this video so far, then we should be fine with doing that even more. Teferi's Ageless Insight is exactly that, drawing more to win more. But how will we win? Jace Wielder Mysteries is one way with that static ability, and Laboratory Maniac, the classic win condition, and Thassa's Oracle are all amazing ways to win a game with this deck. But we do have a backup just in case, and it goes by the name of Chasm Skulker and similar effects to it. Nadir Kraken combos incredibly well with our Simic commander, and Toothy Imaginary Friend is going to go into the deck because it helps us win even when it dies. There is one more Scry card that we want to talk about, but it's not necessarily in here to scry as much as it to be a funnel from Kydele mana, and that card is Thrasios Titan Hero. This is a source that can mill our deck out with ease, and Thrasios only gets better when we get to take our turn on everyone else's turn with a card like Seedborn Muse. Untapped lands are incredibly powerful, and so is Kydele, but both get more powerful with a card like Kruphix, God of Horizons. Kruphix will not only allow us to keep the mana we produce, but also all of the many cards we draw. Because we want to draw our library out, Seagate Restoration gives us no maximum hand size, very similarly to Tishana, Voice of Thunder, that also gives us a maximum hand size of infinity. From here on out in the deck, everything is pretty simple: removal and ramp. The only thing left to talk about is the protection, because hey, our commanders need that. So we can play Lightning Greaves, we can play Swiftfoot Boots, and as a third option, we can play the very powerful Fierce Guardianship. So that is the deck. It's powerful, it's somewhat crazy, it's somewhat janky, but you're going to draw a lot of cards. So if you want to make this deck yourself, then may I suggest using my tcgplayer.com link, which has my deck and so does the tapped out link in the description below. tcgplayer.com has the best prices, best service, and if you use my link, it helps out the channel a lot. But if you aren't going to buy cards, then a subscription to this channel would help me out quite a lot as well, as would a comment or like. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and have a great day.